place.
Making those decisions.
Yeah.
The following is the agenda for the regular Borough Council meeting in the Borough of Pompton Lakes, Mayor and Council Municipal Corporation in the county for today. The meeting will begin at 7:30 p.m. on November 13th, 2024 in the Municipal Building, 25 Lennox Avenue, Pompton Lakes. Consistent with the Open Public Meetings Act, the meeting will be open for public comments and shall be in accordance with the terms and conditions of the Borough's Municipal Code and bylaws.
Please stand for a flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can we have a moment of silence? It's a year since the passing of Councilman Billy Begg. Thank you. In conformance with the Open Public Meeting Law, Public Law 1975, Chapter 231, adequate notice of this meeting setting forth the time, date, place, and purpose of this regular meeting through notice posted on the bulletin board in municipal building, mailed to all, requested and paid for same, and published in Suburban Trends. Roll call, please. Here.
Council President Devon.
Here.
Councilman Booth.
Here.
Councilwoman Quinn.
Here.
Councilwoman Miller.
Here.
Councilman Ward.
Here.
Councilman Venn.
Here.
With us this evening is our Borough Attorney David Rutenberg and our Borough Administrator Michael Farrell.
Okay, thank you. For updates, I'd like to congratulate the election winners of Mr. Randy Hinton, Councilman Bobby Cruz, and Councilman Lisa Kilberg. Thank you. Congratulations on your continued work, and
Thank you, Mayor.
we welcome the new person coming soon. Also on the update, we'll talk about the fire a little bit. You know, unfortunately, we had a fire situation that started Thursday night. Thursday night, it was a small little area. They were dropping water on it, then they could no longer drop water on the flames because it could be turned night and they can't drive the helicopters at night. So in that nighttime, it grew with the winds. It ended up burning 180 acres. The firemen, our volunteer groups, all of our emergency preparedness groups were all there and ready to respond. You know, I always say it, and I'll say it 1,000 times. We have to remember all our volunteer groups here are volunteer. They have lives, they have homes they have to go to, and when they're called to action for this fire, for example, they're here to work. You know, I have to thank the surrounding towns that came to help us. They were on standby and calls. We had a command center set up here in OEM with Al Evangelista. And I have to also thank the state forest services that came in. We had at one point 40 or so state forest service forest fires. They did a great job. They really guided that fire away. As we all know, it got kind of close to a condominium complex, and you could actually see the flames at one point from the condominium complex. So, you know, it was touch or go for a little while. We were talking about opening a shelter, which luckily we did not have to do. And that's all to all those groups that I mentioned before: police, fire, CERT, ambulance squad. All of these groups were on call and ready to go. The command center did a good job in organizing how we were going to do things, and the residents came out in support. We had so much supplies of things brought to us, we had to actually post, please do not drop off any more supplies, because we had so much of it. And a lot of it we brought up to West Milford. You know, unfortunately, our neighbors up in West Milford are having a tough time with this now. I can tell you that when the fire services were here, they ran from telling us we were 50% contained to 60% contained right from here straight up to West Milford. And as we all know, they're still up there fighting. And, you know, they have a bigger problem on their hands up there. So again, I want to thank everybody for what they did. I'm going to thank the citizens for paying attention. If you see smoke at any time, you should always make a call to the police department. And I have to remind everybody, the season that we're in right now with no rain, we have to remind everybody, any little spark can start a fire at this point, anything. So we have to be very careful of that whole thing. Okay, with that, can I have a motion to open the meeting for public comments?
So moved. Second.
Council President DeLine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone from the public like to address? Please step up. Well, I'll take you back first, go ahead.
Daniel Tashkin, 52.5 Howard Street, Pompton Lakes, obviously. Yeah, so the heroic efforts of the fire department and the police notwithstanding, we need to do something about this, because I know that this feels like a freak occurrence, but it's not. This is a predicted consequence of climate change, and climate change is not going anywhere. Climate change is only going to get worse. So I know that you don't want to, like, it might be hard to believe this, but this is actually going to become our new normal. And so there's a lot of changes that we have to make. Now, I don't have a lot of ideas about what changes to make, but what I can say is that we would benefit a lot from having an environmental officer helping the town. We used to have one. I believe DuPont used to pay half their salary. Maybe we could get an arrangement like that going again. I mean, we have major environmental issues. We got the pollution was never fully cleaned up, so that's still an issue. Flooding is going to get worse, also due to climate change. Climate change increases the potency of storms, which increases the flooding. So whatever flooding we're doing now is not going to be sufficient as time passes and this gets worse. So I'm very much imploring the council to hire an environmental officer, because I'm not equipped to tell you what to do. I don't think you're equipped to know what to do. We need someone who is equipped to know what to do about this. This is a very serious issue, especially if you're concerned about our volunteers. They're putting their lives on the line quite literally. Like, it's not just like words. A New York State worker, 18 years old, died fighting this fire. This is a very serious issue, and I want to see it taken seriously. That's all I got.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Greetings all. Mike Simone, 25 West Lenox Ave. As you all know, I'm a man of few words, so I'll try to keep this to 20 minutes or less. Anyway, I wanted to just say a few words. I was pleased to see that the mayor had offered my name up for consideration for the redevelopment agency, and I haven't actually taken a new position in the town in a long time. My previous experience, of course, as you all know, was council and fire department and planning board for a long time, and also developing the redevelopment ordinance way back, and developing the zoning ordinance that went along with it, and also the bid when we were first starting to get involved. So I kind of go back to the beginning of when all this started, seeing what's gone on in the town, what still has to go on, the fact that redevelopment provides a source of income that we otherwise would not have. I feel it's really an important board to be on, or an agency, and I'm glad to see that it's been well-staffed and maintained properly since the beginning of the agency. Just very brief comments about the things that I've done. Basically, the master plan process, which is the planning board, of which I'm the chair, is a process that is now starting again, and you'll all be seeing development of that plan and the bills for that as well, going forward for probably 2 years. And it's important that the master plan reflect, and the zoning ordinance associated with that reflect what's going on and what has gone on, and see whether things need to make a difference. It's also important that the redevelopment agency looks at exactly what's being proposed and how it's being proposed. I would like to think that the experience that I have, both as a profession, which is engineering and planning, and my experience on the board, and my experience with the development of the redevelopment agency and the zoning ordinances in accordance with all of that, might be an asset that the redevelopment agency could use. So I just want to thank the mayor for the putting me on the agenda, and I would answer any questions if you have any, but for the most part, it's just a matter of letting you know a little bit about my interest and a little bit about my background, and that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Al Evangelista, Emergency Management Coordinator. And I can't tell you how proud I am to be standing here right now on behalf of this borough and their response to this disaster. and it was a disaster. We declared disaster. 0800 Saturday morning, we rescinded Sunday morning at 0800. We had everybody in this emergency operating center, which happens to double as 8 council chambers, and everybody came to the table and performed as expected. State police, county sheriff's department, hazmat team, go through our litany of agencies, police, fire, DPW, EMS, CERT team. Amazing, the amazing turnout. And it's nice when you don't have to call people to show up, when they just show up because they know they have a responsibility at the table as part of the emergency planning committee, and they were here. I want to mention this gentleman right here. First time in a long time that I can remember having an administrator at the emergency operating center. So thank you, Michael, for being here as well. Everything went like clockwork. Of course, there's always a few glitches. We react to them, and you step back and you reorganize and you do what you got to do. A couple of misconceptions for the public, and I hope they're watching. First of all, to eliminate rumor control, please like PLOEM, or please like PLVFD, or Pompton Lakes Police. Those are the 3 websites. And of course, Michael is a social media coordinator, put up a lot of information as well that's important to the public. Eliminates rumors, eliminates innuendo, speculation, and you're getting the information directly from the source. One thing the public doesn't understand, perhaps you're not aware of this either, in a wildfire situation, State Forest Fire is the lead agency. We're there as a fire department and OEM to back them up. They have full authority in the woods unless it involves a structure. If it's a structure, then we have the right to step in and protect, which we did, those condominiums on mountainside. So that's the breakdown there. We had all 3 of those gentlemen at the table. We had the chief, who happened to come up from Burlington County because they were short-staffed because of all of the wildfires throughout the state. We had a planner who had all the maps, topographical maps on the table, and was mapping through GPS and other means where they were anticipating having to head off the fire, okay, in order to backfire it, which people don't understand. They light a fire to stop a fire. I know it sounds stupid, but it's the deal. And it's not a tax. One of the ladies on social media questioned whether it was a training exercise. We don't train for the real, we train for the real deal. We don't train as part of the real deal. They do that all the time, especially down in the Pinelands area of the state, they backfire. And they did it here, and it was successful, with the exception we had a wind shift. As the mayor said, the wind came up. We had 35-mile-an-hour winds 2 days ago. Okay, we don't have that on a normal day. I know this gentleman just spoke about climate change. Whether you believe it or not, we certainly had conditions that are different than anything else in November. The reservoirs are very low. The governor today just declared, as you saw, a drought warning. The next step, the highest step, is drought emergency, and then people are going to see some real restrictions. We're not there yet, thankfully. But in Pompton right now, our fire is under control. We did testing. The Passaic County Hazmat team tested that day of the fire, and I requested them to come back for 2 more testing sites. Same sites to try to get the data and see the changes, and we did. They reported to me today, and you saw it on the Facebook page. I'm not going to get into it at length, but things were better today than they were the other day, and they're coming back on Monday, this coming Monday, and hopefully we'll really be back to normal and won't see any residual results at all. So again, thank you to everyone that had a hand in this. Thank you for the council stopping in to see the operation of an emergency operating center. I can tell you that we received kudos from the state trooper that's assigned to our county, from our OEM director, county OEM director, and his deputy. And American Red Cross was here. We did not need to deploy them, but they were out ready for not only food and shelter, but any other assistance they could give us. So everything fell into place. The good part is we can use this as a real event for our regular exercises that we have to do every year. And our plan is revised every year, our emergency operations plan. By the law, every 2 years we got to review it and we got to recertify it, and that's done through the Division of State Police Emergency Management Section. So we are on the top of our game, thank God, and it turned out well. We followed the plan, which is what plans are for, and I just got to tell you, I can't be any more proud of this borough, so thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Avenue. I want to thank the mayor and the council and Al Evangelista, OEM, and all the volunteers in town for doing what they did to help prevent any kind of disaster in Pumpton Lakes. So thank you all. Like Al just mentioned, the governor issued a drought warning. Are there any restrictions at all going to be put on water in town? Also, two items that I brought up at previous meeting. Is there any movement on a handrail out front for the municipal front staircase? And I had asked about stop signs in the end of Ackerman Place and Montclair Ave. Councilman DeLine had mentioned something that maybe a study needs to be done before that can be done. But that's my question.
Okay,
And if you could address that, I'd appreciate it. Thank you.
thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Councilman Bennon, Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, Dan, climate control and change, I'm not going to address from here from the dais. That's an individual responsibility of every individual that we talk to about it, how they feel about it. You brought up the pollution at the DuPont property. That's under the hands of the EPA, the DEP. They're overseeing that cleanup, so we don't really have much say on how that is handled. They've been fighting this for a very long time. They're getting closer. They did clean the lake. Now they're going to work on the property itself. And you mentioned the flooding. I think we do an excellent job of handling the flooding that we have. We use open space funds sometimes to buy out some properties that we think should be bought out. We live in a flood zone. We're surrounded by 3 lakes. It could probably get worse in the future, but we'll just have to move forward as that happens. Mr. Simone, thank you for listing your credentials. You've been involved in the town a very long time, and you've been involved in many different boards, so thank you for that. Mr. Evangelista, of course, thank you for everything you did and everything that you mentioned in your report. I should have also mentioned that the governor did call me, and the lieutenant governor actually called me to see how things were. Did we need anything? Is there anything they can do to help? The county, of course, is always responsive, called also to see, did we need anything? We did have the county OEM director here at the meeting, so he was part of the conversation. But I agree with Al, we learn from these things, but at the same time, we did move pretty well. I thought it worked out pretty well. Everybody was doing what they had to do. Mr. Hinton, the handrail, our building department did look at it, Mike. I think he said it wasn't needed, or was, I don't remember.
To be determined.
To be determined on that. The stop signs, I think we are putting them in, or are we still doing a study?
We did conduct a study with the borough engineer. The engineer determined that there's specific criteria in the traffic code, if you will, that have to be met to put in a stop warrant on a specific intersection. The intersection, according to traffic data from the police department and other pedestrian safety-related issues, determined that the intersection does not meet the criteria and that we are not liable for a stop warrant.
Okay. And you asked about restrictions. Just today, as our OEM director mentioned, they did put some restrictions out. They're kind of voluntary at this point. The next step would be a non-voluntary, but we're not there yet. Some of the things that I happened to read in the email that was sent out, you should not be watering your yard. You should try to water your plants by hand. Fix any dripping faucets, those kind of things. That's where we are. But, let's take this as it is. This is a serious condition right now in the whole state. It's not just the fact of the fires. They're short on water. I mean, they're moving water around right now from reservoir to reservoir to see where the biggest need is. So if this continues, it could get worse, in over time. Okay, motion to approve the following minutes. Special closed meeting minutes, October 23rd, regular meeting minutes, October 23rd. So moved. Council President DeLine, Councilwoman Kilberg, all in favor? Aye. Against? Bills and the payments of bills as listed below. Can I have a motion?
Motion.
Councilman Bennon, Council President DeLine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anybody need anything removed from the agenda, consent agenda? Nope.
No.
Okay, Liz, whenever you're ready.
Whereas the mayor and the borough council of the borough of Pumpton Lakes have reviewed the consent agenda consisting of various proposed resolutions, whereas the mayor and council of the borough of Pumpton Lakes does not desire to remove resolutions for individual action from that agenda. Now therefore be it resolved that the following resolutions on the consent agenda are hereby approved. Resolution 24-412 through 24-430.
Motion to approve the resolutions.
So moved.
Council
Second.
President Devine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Ordinances, whenever you're ready.
Ordinance for first reading and will be presented for final adoption on December 11th. An ordinance amending Chapter 13 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Compton Lakes and updating the requirements for certain road opening permits.
Motion to approve ordinance 2441 for introduction.
So moved.
Council President Devine,
Second?
Councilwoman Kent, all in favor?
Can we have discussion on that one?
Sure.
Can you just review it for us, please?
Sure. So at the last Borough Council meeting, under workshop, we brought forth a change in our road opening permit process right now. We're looking to limit the ability of a utility company to dig up a new road that's been paved. So the borough attorney and borough engineer and I are suggesting that any road that has been paved in the last 5 years shall be restored with infrared pavement restoration for areas up to 50 square feet as approved by the borough engineer, and any areas disturbed over 50 square feet would be subject to a curb-to-curb pavement replacement instead of a patch. So we're looking to amend that section, and we are looking to implement a waiver ability from the utility companies to request a waiver to the governing body for emergency purposes. So, thank you.
And this is what I brought on when we spoke to Wayne. Wayne has already was fought in court in Wayne, and Wayne won, so let's us do it too. That's what I said. Okay, can I have a roll call, please?
Councilman Cruz,
Yes.
Councilman Valon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Ordinance 24-42, an ordinance amending Chapter 11 of the revised general ordinances of the Borough of Compton Lakes regulating the issuance of permits for events in public forums.
Motion to approve ordinance 24-42 for introduction.
So moved.
Councilwoman
Second.
Kilberg, Council President Devine, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Roll call, please.
Councilman Cruz,
Yes.
Councilman Valon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes.
Final adoption, ordinance 24-40. This ordinance has been advertised and posted. Bond ordinance providing for the improvement of various roads in and by the Borough of Compton Lakes in the County of Passaic, New Jersey, appropriating $731,200 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $548,672 bonds or notes of the borough for financing such appropriation.
Motion to open the meeting for public comments on ordinance 24-40.
So moved.
Council President Devine,
Second?
Councilwoman Kilberg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Anyone like to address just this ordinance? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the meeting? Oh, I'm sorry, was somebody raising? Okay.
Mike Simone, 25 West Lenox Ave. I was just curious what streets are included.
Do we have the list of streets, Mike?
This bond ordinance
This is
is
the
for
bill.
Watervliet and Albany Ave.
Waterville and,
Thank you.
anybody else? Okay. Motion to close the meeting for public comments on ordinance 24-40.
So moved.
Council President Devine, Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Motion to approve ordinance 24-40 for final adoption.
So moved.
Second. Council President Devine, Councilman Cruz, roll call, please.
Councilman Cruz,
Yes.
Councilman Dewan,
Yes.
Councilwoman Kent,
Yes.
Councilwoman Hilbert,
Yes.
Councilwoman Polidori,
Yes.
Councilman Bennett.
Yes. Okay. Under my report, we'll start with my appointments. Motion to approve Mike Simone as Commissioner to the Redevelopment Agency to fill an unexpired term until December 31st, 2025. Can I have a motion? Councilman Denon,
Second?
Councilwoman Kent,
Discussion.
discussion, go ahead.
It's my understanding that Mr. Simone will be filling both the role on the redevelopment agency and the planning board at the same time.
Go ahead.
So I'm going to express my concerns. It's not about you, Mike. I've known you for quite a while on the council. I have a lot of respect. I've served with you on the planning board twice, sometimes as a resident and also as a councilman. I do have some concerns about having a member on both, anyone, regardless of who it is, on the planning board and on the redevelopment agency. The council, we are very, we've been very careful about not having a council liaison on both the planning board and for the redevelopment agency. And part of it is because I believe that there's a lot of overlap between the two. The redevelopment agency negotiates with the redeveloper, goes through the site plan, goes through the architecture, everything like that, recommends the pilot to the council, and then it moves to the planning board for site plan approval. I just think that there's too much overlap between the development process to have any member on both boards. I have no issue if it's one or the other. I greatly value Mr. Simone's service to the community on a number of cases. I always have. I've always defended that you had the best interests of the community at heart. However, it's more about the process of having one person occupy both boards that have a lot of overlap between the two.
Okay, so you said that we do have liaisons to both of those boards.
We do.
And they do vote. Oh, yeah, well, they're both voting members. Is that what you're saying? You said we didn't have.
No, we've never had, when we established the redevelopment agency, we have never had a council liaison to the redevelopment agency be the council liaison to the planning board as well. And I think that was always intentional because there is a lot of overlap between the boards. We've always had a separate council liaison on the planning board. We've had a separate council liaison on the redevelopment agency.
Oh, so you're just talking about the liaisonship.
That's correct. But even still, this would be the first time that we've had a member of anyone be on both boards. And I'm just expressing my concern about it because the two have so much overlap with each other in the development review and planning process.
Right, and I understand what you're saying, but it's passed on from redevelopment to planning. So right now, we're missing that step. There isn't.
The step's not missing. It's having a person being involved in both steps. I think need to be independent of each other. I think boards both need to be independent of each other and have different voices complete on both sides through this development process.
No, I understand that, but what I'm suggesting is having someone who's on both boards is going to bring the discussion to the planning board sooner, so that they'll be aware of it, and so it doesn't just hit them when they show up on that talk.
Well, I don't really disagree with that, because if we think that I don't really agree with that, because I think if we've had a process that we've generally been comfortable with, having not done that, we've done redevelopment for years without having to need that. We have professionals that share it. Our attorneys share it. We have our in-house staff that share it. We now have an executive director that's an employee of the borough that should be managing those kind of things. So there's a lot, I think there's a lot of communication that we don't need to rely on a member of the public to do that now too. But again, that's my personal opinion.
Okay.
I have actually additional concerns, and I echo your sentiments 100%, but I've, sat up here a long time, and we have members come and go from boards, and we openly discuss in public during meetings when seats are vacated, and we try to generate some interest from the public to inspire people to join those boards and participate. This was never discussed. It was never announced. We didn't try to solicit any additional members, and instead we're moving a member from one board to another. I would like to see this moved out to the public and see if we can get some new faces involved in some of these boards, as we've always sought to do in other vacated seats.
Okay, but that's not how the system works. It's my appointment and then on consent of the council. So it's not a discussion with the rest of the committees or town. It's my appointment and then a vote by the council.
But we've done that for almost every other committee, every time there's a vacated seat.
Not that I know. I'm about to appoint somebody right now, next.
That hasn't always been the case.
Okay.
That's
If there's been a need, and there's been opportunity, I think we've tried to announce it, but I think we've also seen plenty of appointments that haven't been publicly announced. And other
Okay.
things.
Anybody else?
I have a concern. I would have no problem with Mr. Simone sitting on either board, but I don't think it should be both. I think if you're going to be on the redevelopment and you're going to send a resolution, you're going to pass a resolution, and then it needs to be voted on with the planning board, and then you have the same person sitting on the planning board. So they're voting twice for the same thing. I think that
Well,
It shouldn't, they shouldn't share, they, like Eric has said, they
they're
sort
not
of
voting on the
overlap
same
each
thing.
other.
The planning board has
Well-
different, they're not voting on what the redevelopment agency's voting on.
No, but they're voting twice. It would be the same
They are
person voting
twice,
twice.
yes.
I'm not, I don't know if that's right. I don't see that as.
Let me ask just one question. Is this the first time we're doing this?
In what?
That we're having one person hold two seats on two different boards? Boards of this value, by the way, because these are very valuable. Ad boards, this is the first time we're ever doing this? So to answer your question, the redevelopment agency is one of those quasi boards. It's not really our board per se. You know, there's different rules for that board, and that's why he is able to do this, because it's a different type of board. So no, the answer would be no, but we've never really had an issue with redevelopment. Other boards, you can't do it. You know, I've known Mike as well, Mr. Simone, for a very long time, and there's obviously nothing against him, but I do, you know, at appearances alone, it's questionable, and we do got to speak for our residents as well. And I'm pretty sure they all know Mike and Mr. Simone. He's done, you know, his service to the community goes without saying. But I think it you know, it's just, if it was one or the other, I think it would be perfect. He's knowledgeable. God knows he could bring a lot to the table. I think it's just, look, it is concerning. It is concerning two very important boards here with one person sitting, having a seat on both. So I just want to reiterate and ditto everything that's been said so far. Again, nothing against Mr. Simone. I mean, like I said, it goes without saying what he's done for this community, but it, you know, at face value, it does look a bit inappropriate to have one person have whatever voting they're going to have on two very critical boards that we have. That's already been contentious discussions on the dais as it is regarding a lot of the things that have been going on with both boards. So I just want to put that out there.
Okay. Anybody else?
Is there any precedence? Is it
That's what I was just asking. He said no.
n-
Because I said, has this ever been done before?
here in Pompton
Oh,
Lakes?
well, that's,
My question is,
Oh.
there are other RDA boards out there, RDA redevelopment agencies out there?
I don't know that answer. I can't answer that.
Before we vote, can we find that out?
I could, but I don't know how I'd find that out. I'd have to call the boards, I think. I mean, they're not listing that. I mean, I guess I could look on all their web pages and kind of figure it out. Well, can I pose a question to our attorney? You know, as far as any legalities involving both boards and having a vote on both of them?
We did actually look at this, and we determined they're not incompatible offices. And although the planning board statute does say that a class 4 planning board member, which Mr. Simone is, should not hold another municipal office, that definition of municipal office does not fit for a redevelopment agency, because a redevelopment agency is an advisory board. They don't have any authority separate from this council. So it is not, he's not precluded by the planning board statute from serving in that capacity.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
So legally, he's allowed to?
Legally, yes.
Yes.
So I think the thing that comes out of that is, again, it's an advisory board like the Open Space Committee. They have no value. They cannot vote on anything. We here vote on everything when it comes to redevelopment. So it's just an advisory board, and that's why, and I think that's what the attorney was saying there. That's why the planning board does have authority and power to vote on things, where the redevelopment makes suggestions to us. But it's a very influential board. It's a very influential board in the community. I think everybody would agree with that. They're a very influential board, that if it wasn't something that was just advisory, then there'd be no point in keeping it. They actually provide a lot of weight to what goes on in this town regarding redevelopment. And, you know, it very well could have that very loose title of advisory, but they carry a lot of weight in the town. This is not something because
Well, when you say carry a lot of weight,
I said they carry a lot of weight as far as the direction, the developers that they work with, what they agree with, what's going to, I mean, it's a laundry list. I mean, we've had many of discussions regarding redevelopment lately, and that's.
we have to vote. They have no.
No, I know it's we. I'm just saying that just in general, it's there for a reason, is what I'm trying to say. It's there for a reason. If it was a board that really had no play or impact to the community, it would have been dissolved. It's not a required board to have. It's a nice to have. And we did that, whoever was here voted on that. So I just want to put that out there, that they carry a lot more weight than,
Okay.
Mayor, am I allowed to comment at all?
Nope.
Okay.
You have anything? You're the last one.
Well, I was just going to ask if we could postpone the vote, only because I mean, it looks like it would be 4-2, and I really don't want to vote down Mr. Simone. He's been a tremendous asset to this community for many years. I thought maybe we could put it out for next.
Well, I have another
next
name
month.
that I'm going to add to the list if we don't want to put him in, so I think we should take the vote now.
Okay.
Okay, so roll call, please.
Councilman Cruz?
Do we have to vote this tonight? This cannot be pushed to the next meeting in December? I feel like I just don't have enough time to vet all this information.
Well, it's not about vetting. It's either yes or no.
No, I know, but just understand, look, I'm in a position where Mike is more than qualified. So the issue of qualifications is not the issue. If you were to come to me right now that he had all plans, because I know your term does not expire till 2026 or 2027, I would not have a problem if he said, I'm going to resign from the planning board to take on the redevelopment. So I'm not here to vote him down. I would love to have him on redevelopment, but the issue that we have is we're making a decision right now, which I think he's a very viable candidate to take. And it's 2 chairmanship positions, by the way. Okay?
When you say 2 chairmen.
Well, he's the chairman right now of the planning board, and he's going to be the chair.
No.
Or
He's
he's just a member. Okay, so.
But it could be.
He could be, we don't know that.
Okay, but, all right, but we're talking about now, not the future. So I just don't feel comfortable voting right now on this. Can I vote present on this?
I would hope you'd want to vote, but.
I'm not going to vote because I'm going to tell you right now, I like Mike. Excuse me, Mr. Simone. I'll be professional about it. And I think he's qualified for the position, but I just don't feel comfortable right now till I do my own research to
Well,
understand the implications.
let me ask you this. Is postponing it going to do any good? Well, I mean, what other information are you going to find?
Well, I want to know, first of all, and it's a good point by Councilman Vennon, is there already communities that we have, whether they're near us or in Jersey, that already do this? And I'd love to know, well, what are the experiences you have? Has it been a positive one? Having somebody, you brought your point that communication will be a lot faster from one board to the other. Okay, if that's one, that's not a selling point for me, but if that's going to be one, well, I want to know what else it is. Because right now, I don't know. And we've never done it before to look back and say, oh, we did this 10 years ago. Okay, great, so that means there's some experience behind it. We don't know. And there's nothing against Mr. Simone. Right now, I just don't feel comfortable.
All right, I'm willing to postpone it a month if that's what people are asking.
If we can, Mike, just so I can at least find out myself.
Okay, so let's postpone it till next month, and we'll try to find out the information. I don't know if that's readily available.
Well, I do ask that every council member who had a concern, do your research then.
No, I agree.
Because when we come here, I don't want to hear arguments. I don't want to hear all this other stuff coming around. Do your research, come in here with knowledge of what's going on. If everybody's comfortable, then we move forward.
Okay, I agree with
Do
you.
not want to drag this out.
We should do a motion to table.
Okay, I'm just going to do that next. So
I'll
everybody's okay?
make a motion to table the vote till the next council meeting.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Denon, all in favor?
Aye.
Thank you,
So
Mayor.
that's taken. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor.
Motion to appoint William Lowe as a trustee to the library board to fill an unexpired term until December 31st, 2028. There's no motion, it's just announcing that. That's just an appointment. Okay. Under my report, quickly, I did talk about the fire, so I'm not going to go over that again. I was honored to attend the 200 Club honoree dinner last night, which is basically a dinner that honors our responder heroes, any of our heroes in Passaic County that have gone well above and beyond, which most of them have. They honored 3 individuals. It was a nice dinner. It was nice to see that. I attended a personnel meeting. I attended the grand opening for the electric bike store, which I understand is doing very well, and it is moving along. It's a nice little store. If you haven't been in it, it's a beautiful setup inside and some crazy looking bikes in there when you go look at them. Most of us here attended the Veterans ceremony here at Town Hall. Always nice to have that, and I thank Liz and the office for putting that together. She always does a great job with that. I attended the redevelopment meeting, the bid meeting, the Shade Tree Commission meeting. Did I think 5 weddings this last 2 weeks. And yesterday, myself and the administrator met with surrounding towns to discuss surrounding towns and their police departments and administrators to discuss maybe doing some type of shared service when it comes to enforcement with cameras on all our streets, because as we all know, we're moving towards cameras taking pictures of motor vehicles and things, and it would be good if we shared that services with other towns. So as one car was coming into our town and leaving and going into another town, we can keep following them through if we all on the same systems. Beginning discussions, we'll see how that goes. I know we have on our agenda today to talk about some security cameras later, so it's important that these cameras, this is the wave of the future, and this is how we're doing things with the cameras. And that is my report. Council President Vaughn.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. That Saturday morning, Councilman Cruz and I, we rode up here to the command center that also doubles as the council chambers when more important things are not going on. I want to commend everyone for their professionalism. It was walked in, you could clearly see that it wasn't trying to figure things out. These guys had it down to a science. Al was there, the mayor was there. They were on top of it. They gave Councilman Cruz and I a briefing. Again, it was in the face of what was really I don't want to say a tragedy, but certainly an emergency. It created a sense of, I guess, optimism and at least of understanding that these guys knew exactly what they were doing. Forest Fire Service was there, State Police was there. We rode up. We had fire departments from Bloomingdale, Riverdale, Quantick, all answering the calls. Our own fire service, our PD, our first aid squad, our CERT was doing great work. So again, I just want to thank everyone, and I do want to thank our residents because they did show interest. They reached out, they wanted to help out our volunteers, and that's huge. That's huge in a community like that. So, it's given the times, it's easy again to try to put our heads in the sands and say, well, this is your team, this is my team, and it really, and this is a statement that I made last week or last council meeting. We don't ask what are your politics before we go out and help. Our residents weren't like, well, who did this firefighter vote for? Who's this? Who's that? They were just like, how can we help? And that means a lot in a community like this. This is why our community is so great. So I want to thank everyone, Al again, and the mayor for excellent communication. I know there was a lot of questions going around Facebook. It was just, information got out when it needed to get out, and it did so well, and it kept people informed. And the most important thing was that the situation was being handled and then communicated. So kudos to everyone involved. I did want to bring up the drought warning. It was announced by DEP and the governor today. They released a statement. So that is sort of the first step to potential additional restrictions. There are no mandated restrictions right now by the state, but it enables them to create some mandated restrictions. Ultimately, it's sort of using common sense when you're utilizing water. Shut off the water if you don't need it. Don't waste water. Kind of the things that we sort of should be doing on a normal basis anyways. We're just seeing the effects firsthand. So right now there hasn't been any changes, but please be aware that right now conserving water is important, and I encourage every resident to do so. And then finally, thank you, Councilman Venon, for bringing up the issue of the smell with the MUA. I'll be at the MUA meeting on Monday to bring that up, and I do know that Michael, myself, the mayor, and the director of the MUA will be meeting next Friday to discuss it as well. So we'll continue to work on that. And that concludes my report, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kilburg.
Okay. I have a motion to approve the request of Councilwoman Polidori to close Lakeside Ave from the intersection of Lakeside Ave and Wanacue Ave through the Lakeside and Colfax Avenue between the hours of 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. on Saturday, December 14th, 2024, for the annual Toys for Tots train. Police, first aid, and fire departments have been notified.
Can I have a second? Councilwoman Polidori, all in favor?
Aye.
Against?
Okay. A motion to approve the request of St. Mary's Church to close road shoulder for procession of the Virgin of Guadalupe, 7 a.m. to 8:30 a.m. on Sunday, December 8th, 2024. Usage of the eastbound lanes of Hamburg Turnpike, northbound lane of Ringwood Ave, and eastbound lane of Wanacue Ave, ending on Lenox Ave, with the condition the procession remain in the shoulder of the roadway and will not occupy the travel lane. There will be 2 special officers assigned to assist along the route. Passaic County Engineering Department, Insurance Agency, Police, and Fire First Aid Departments have been notified.
Can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I attended the Veterans Day ceremony at Borough Hall. I attended the grand opening for Max's e-bike store, and we are now the proud owners of a
Very
brand-new
nice.
e-bike. I attended, my husband is no
I
longer
was
allowed
gonna
to
say,
come anywhere with me ever again.
Dennis got a new toy.
I attended the Elks Walkout on Drugs Sunday, November 3rd. I attended the Flood Advisory Board meeting, and at the meeting, the board passed the following resolution. The Flood Advisory Board recommends that the Willowfield project not proceed as the cost to the borough, both financially and ecologically, is too high and outweighs the potential benefits of the project. We understand that the borough will have to return grant money and have a conversation with the Passaic County Open Space Trust Fund administrators about the project's cancellation. I did complete, this is for Michael, my cybersecurity course. Do you need the certification?
I do.
Okay. And
Now he tells.
I would like to thank the New Jersey Fire Forest Service along with the Pompton Lakes Volunteer Fire Department, the Pompton Lakes First Aid Squad, OEM, and the Pompton Lakes CERT team, and all the surrounding towns that came out to help fight the fire that threatened residents in this town on Saturday. It is humbling to witness firsthand men and women willing to put their lives on the line to save others in the community. There are truly not enough thank yous. I would also like to thank my fellow council members who reached out that morning to make sure I was okay. And for those of you who don't know, my development was directly affected by the Cannonball 3 fire. And thank you for coming up to the community to check on us and make sure everyone was okay. It was greatly appreciated by all. And as a board member of the Highlands Association, I will work hard to have all of our residents sign up for the reverse 911 call, because it's safe to say that a lot of them are not. So I will definitely try to move that along. And just thank you. I'm trying not to get emotional, because when you look out your window and you see flames, I mean, it's very nerve-wracking, you know? So it really just meant a lot to see everyone there. So thank you. And that's it.
And I should mention, Lisa mentioned it quietly, but she is on the board. And one of the things we had discussed while this was all going on is to get everybody in the condominium complex hooked up to the reverse 911. So there is no discrepancy on what they're getting information, because the board can put out their own email, which isn't really the town's email. So if everybody's in the same page, and this goes for all our residents, you don't have to live in this town to be on it. You can have your mother might live here and you live in Florida. You can get the call in Florida if you'd like to say, hey, look, this is what's going on. This is the emergency that's going on. When Al puts out a reverse 911 and it goes to all the residents, those residents will get that call. Sometimes we just do an isolated area that we're calling. Now, I think we did isolate the condominium complex of the people that had signed up for that. So if there's 160 residents there and only 40 signed up for it, only 40 are getting that call. So that's why it is very important to get them.
We'll also put the word out for those residents, not many, but residents that are incapacitated, ones that can't move on their own. And I think I spoke to Al about this. There is a list where we can sign them up so that OEM knows who would need that extra help getting out if they needed to.
Okay,
Thank you.
Councilwoman Polidori.
Thank you. I also want to extend my gratitude to the members of all of our first responder units, both within our community and outside of our community, that came to the aid of our borough during the wildfire. I was on the squad that day, so I was up at the scene for most of the day, and watching it through that perspective, when you see how everyone is working together in a very heightened time of unawareness, and it was just, I have a new level of respect for the bravery that these men and women exhibit when they just selflessly and just don't stop all day long. And when I pulled up and got out of the ambulance, the first 3 people I saw were my fellow councilmen and women. Councilman DeLine and Cruz were standing with Councilwoman Kilberg as she was trying to work with her residents. So we have first responders that take care of us very well, and just to know that in addition to that, our leadership took the time out to be there for our residents is a sign of comfort. So thank everyone that took part in that, and especially thank you to our residents. By the time I had gotten back to the squad building at the end of the day, the entire room was filled with not only refreshments, snacks, drinks, which were very much needed. We were handing out drinks to the firemen all day long, but medical supplies as well. One of the things you don't think about is standing in smoke for so long, your eyes start to burn. We had cases of eye drops that were being donated, and that was just through social media, people saying, what do you need, what can we bring? And there was just such an outpouring of support for everyone that was responding that day, so thank you to everyone. I also want to congratulate my fellow council members on their victorious reelection and welcome our newcomer to the dais, Randy Hinton. Good job. You ran a great campaign, and I look forward to working with all of you. I attended the Veterans Day ceremony. I'm always very appreciative that we continue to honor that in our borough, so thank you, Liz, and all that work with you on making it so successful. We appreciate you. Along with our borough administrator and members of our BID and some members of our county and William Patterson University, we hosted a grant program for small business owners within the borough. It was held at the First Aid Squad building. We had members of the small business development and economic development groups come out and talk about the funding that's available at the county level for not only exterior improvements, but interior equipment upgrades, home businesses, new acquisitions, e-commerce upgrades. So we had a few business owners that I think may be able to find some use in that. And additionally, it was brought to our attention that there is someone that works alongside of not only the business owners, but the borough itself as a liaison to coordinate some of these efforts. So I believe we'll be having that gentleman come in to meet with the BID as well. So I want to thank Mike Corelli for helping me push that through and making it a success. We do have a lot of information. I think you started putting it out on the borough for those that couldn't attend, so we'll continue to share that. I attended a tactical bleed training class at the First Aid Squad, which unfortunately was on the same night as the coalition meeting, so I could not attend that. But I know that we had some representatives attend the walk from a coalition along with our Elks, the walkout on drugs that was hosted, so thank everyone for their participation in that. I participated in a personnel meeting. And Toys for Tots is coming up, so I've been working with our borough administrator, and one of our residents actually is a family member of the deputy director of Toys for Tots, who is out of Washington, D.C., and once a year he comes up. It's the Cristiano family. He has a nephew in two of our elementary schools, at Lakeside and Lincoln. He comes up once a year to give a program to the students to talk about discipline, respect, inclusiveness, behavior, doing well, and then goes on to talk about how important the mission is and what it actually impacts in the communities. I've been working on Toys for Tots for a few years, and after a while, sometimes I think we go through the motion and we check the boxes, but we forget exactly what the purpose and intent is behind what we're doing and what it really does bring to the communities that support it. So hearing him speak and the passion that he has behind that was really wonderful. And Mrs. Cristiano is going to continue to work with myself and the borough administrator on expanding the way we facilitate Toys for Tots in our town this year. So I look forward to that, and I hope everyone comes out. I also met with someone from the VFW who has now finalized internally the details for proceeding with Flags for Hero. I reached out to Dan O'Rourke on a conference call so that we could make sure that we do, in fact, have the correct fittings for the brackets so that when we have the flags delivered, there won't be any delay in having them hung. He is going to walk with Dan to determine what the first 13 poles should be. They would like that it would coincide with the parade route, so that those would be the first 13 flags that you see when you turn the corner for the parade. So I imagine probably in the first quarter of the new year, they will start to put the order in for those flags so that we can hang them for Memorial Day. So thank all of you for your support in helping me push that forward for the VFW. I also signed the bills this month and had a few that I had reviewed with our borough administrator, one in particular that I wanted to discuss. So I will hold this for your report, but when you give your report, I would like an update on some of the expenses that we're continuing to pay to DMK. And I've noticed that now we are actually starting to pay out of borough funds some of the violations for what took place. And I'd like to have a discussion about that when you share your report. And lastly, there is an open space meeting tomorrow night. There was some content shared on social media today that, sometimes when things hit social media, they turn left and they take on a life of their own. I just want to put just a few simple facts out there for those that saw that on social media. The Willowfield project is being presented to open space. Unfortunately, we will not be delaying the vote, and what you should know, and the reason for asking to have that vote delayed, is because there is a possibility that the engineer who has worked on this from the beginning, who did walk the site with myself and the mayor and Councilwoman Kent and our borough administrator, was going to suggest that we could approach this from possibly, right, we haven't seen it yet, a different angle that could present a cost savings to the borough. We haven't heard that yet, and the plan as it stands now is being presented for a vote tomorrow. My ask would that we could delay this a little bit so that when the vote does take place at open space, they're voting on all of the information that's available. I've been told that the borough engineer is coming to present his alternate solution to us at the next council meeting. So open space will be voting in advance of having that information. I'm not sure why, but some of the facts that were shared today are a little bit misleading, and it's important to know that the project does come in at a price tag of about approximately $1 million, slightly in excess if you use the extra part that was separated out as a line item on the illustration provided. There is $430,000 available in county grants, to speak to the grants that were referenced in the Flood Advisory Board's resolution. $430,000, which means that we're looking at a ballpark of approximately $600,000 that the borough would be responsible for coming up for the difference with. And there was some other communication that, Carlo Field was brought up, and that it seemed unfair that they were given $50,000 and that they were paid for a project that was not up to code and that was paid for without being approved. That is also not true. The building was inspected and approved before the contractor was paid. Am I correct in that? Yes. And what I would like to remind everyone is that in addition to the $1 million price tag, the $600,000 out of pocket, the $430,000 in grants, Carlo Field actually came after Willowfield in being given funding from Open Space. Open Space was given a distribution, Open Space gave the Willowfield project a distribution already of $100,000, which has been spent on engineering costs. So there already has been Open Space funding given to that project. This is not my saying that I do or do not feel it is or isn't a good project. This is my feeling that it's very important that when we have these conversations, we are having conversations based on all of the actual facts and not misleading information. If for some reason it does not make sense and this council decides to forego that project and the county funds are returned to the county, they will be reabsorbed by the county and distributed in other ways for other projects, perhaps not us, but somewhere else. But something else I heard, which is absolutely incorrect. If we forego these funds, this in absolutely no way means that we will not be permitted to apply for funding in the future. I know it was mentioned, I actually received a few text messages last night indicating that people had heard that there was a suggestion made that perhaps if we don't use this money, the county will never let us apply for another grant. Again, that is absolutely false. So I just want to make sure that when we have these conversations, we are actually using the information that's being provided is accurate and correct. And I just want to make sure, was I right in saying we have the engineer coming to share an alternate proposal for what this project could look like next month?
Well, yes, he is coming to discuss the project as planned, and if the governing body would like to see a change of scope, he can certainly talk to that.
So when we spoke earlier today, you had mentioned to me that he had a suggestion that perhaps could be a less expensive answer to what is being proposed to us. Will he be willing to speak to that when he comes to the meeting in December? Okay, I think that's important. So that's all I ask, is that, before you make any decisions, you actually take some time to look at all the information and think about the impact of what that looks like. I understand more than anyone that the ball fields are important. My children played on them too. But we as council people are responsible for the tax dollars of all of the residents in this community. So that is my report.
Thank you. Councilman Brennan.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to echo my peers' comments and thanks of all the firefighters and first responders. I'd also like to offer my condolences to the family of Dario Vasquez, New York State Parks Department worker who passed away working that fire. I'd also like to recognize and thank our veterans for their service. I also attended the Veterans Ceremony on last Monday. The redevelopment agency met last Thursday. The Washington building was discussed, and they updated the plans so that the doors weren't flush with the sidewalks, but were actually inset a little bit so as to not have a wall of glass. It looks very nice. They are not requesting a pilot, correct, Mayor?
They are not, no.
So they were given they were able to move forward with their project. They also showed us the color palette. It was requested that the Washington building, which has like a yellowish color brick today, that be carried forward so that the new building has some sort of tie back to the original building. A conceptual plan was brought up for 207 Wanacue Ave, which is the building between like Simon Stiles and the liquor store. And the gentleman wants to put in additional apartments. It's not going to go up any higher. It's just redoing what's existing, basically refurbishing it, which would be nice if once he speaks with his architect and engineer, he'll come back to the RDA for further discussion. I'd like to recognize the Steel Magnolias robotics team for their performance on Sunday. They did a phenomenal job over at Pingree School in Basking Ridge. It was the best showing yet since I've been involved in the team 3 years now. They are currently 6th in the league of 40-plus teams. I'd also like to congratulate the Pompton Lakes High School Marching Band on a successful season. Lastly, Passaic County is holding their hazardous waste collection on Saturday, November 23rd, 7:30 to 2 p.m., rain or shine, at the Passaic County Community College Wanacue campus, 500 Union Avenue. More information is available on the Passaic County website. And that is my report, Mayor.
And that is a good event because residents are always asking how do they get rid of the hazardous materials that they have in their homes. You can just bring it over there and they'll take it off your hands for you. It's the one time you can bring paint and those kind of things over there and they'll take it from.
Not latex paint, though.
Not latex paint, that's correct. But, and it has to be dried. But, you know, I know residents are always concerned on how to get rid of those things, so that makes it a little easier. Councilman Cruz.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me. I do not have a report tonight, but I do want to say I just have a few words. You know, I want to ditto the sentiments, obviously, from all our council members regarding all our first responders. You know, for me, it was the first time being there, and it caught me off guard. And just to understand the risk that our firefighters, you know, State Forest Service that was there, the risk that they were taking, our first aid squad, it was unbelievable to not only feel the heat, you were unable to breathe on scene. So it was quite shocking, but again, I know you've said this many times, Mayor, we have a top-notch volunteer fire department, police department, first aid, CERT, of course, and I just want to commend the communication. Communication was so poor on Facebook, you know, social media, in particular that day, it went crazy, you know, and I have to kudos to Al, to yourself, Mayor. I know you appeared on TV. It was just amazing. Just the communication was very important to make sure that the truth was out there. And unfortunately, you know, there are going to be rumors and people are going to speak their own truth. But the communication was so important and it was repetitive, it was on time, and it really did settle the community from what I was able to see and speak to residents. So thank you to all of you, of course. And I just want to say thank you to my running mates, my family, the residents of Pompton Lakes. I'm honored to be up here and serve the community for another 3 years. And I'll do it for my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kent.
Thank you, Mayor. I also want to congratulate Lisa, Bobby, and Randy on a really good campaign, and they're winning that election, and I look forward to working with you as I have now, and I work with you, Randy, on these shade trees, so it'll be nice to have you up here, and then you don't have to argue with the mayor back and forth. It'll be a lot nicer. Tongue in cheek. I was at the command center that morning. I am the public safety liaison. I've also been trained in incident command center. I've got a number of years under that, which when I worked for my DEP job. So I had the training, but I've never seen it in action. And it's one thing to train for it and to do the drills, and it's another thing to actually be a part of it. And again, same thing, state police, state fire service, state county OEM, state OEM, local OEM, county OEM, our fire department, our first aid squad, our police department, CERT members, DPW, and the American Red Cross, that they were here and really were just so concerned that this did not turn in a really bad way. So we were very lucky that that did not happen. I was also at the firehouse helping out with the rabies vaccine clinic, and I saw, I'm telling you, trays of food this big that were being brought to the fire department by our residents, and just saying, how can they help? How can they help? And we turned them over to the ambulance squad, and there was food and drinks, and I'm telling you, every 5 minutes there was somebody else coming in, and they said, no, everything goes down to the ambulance squad. So in addition to the incident, it's amazing what our own residents were willing to do, and thank God, it didn't get any worse. Of course, we did have a loss on that Saturday, and my sympathies go out to his family. I attended a ribbon cutting at the e-bike store. It's a beautiful store. I'm thinking of getting a bike, so I think it'll be a lot of fun. And with that, I also attended the veterans ceremony. It was very nice. It was lightly attended, but it was beautifully done, Liz. I also attended the Chamber of Commerce monthly dinner. I can tell you that the members of the chamber wanted me to address 3 items with the mayor and council. One, that the car show was very successful, and they thanked everyone. They had over $7,000 in profit. $2,000 will go to the scholarship, and then there is a flood fund that was renamed the disaster fund, and that has $1,943 in. They felt they should change the fund just in case there were other issues other than flooding that maybe the residents would need, and that was approved. But they were worried about the e-bikes they're being found on the sidewalks downtown, and they want to know what can be done with that. So that's one of the concerns. The other one was there's evidently U-turns from cars on Wanacue Avenue, and they said they see an increase in that, and they don't understand why they're not getting tickets or being pulled over. So it's something we have to bring up to the chief. And they also were concerned that the Veterans Day ceremony, which was very nice, but it was very light, why it was not conducted on November 11th, the day it's supposed to be. So I told them, well, I don't know, but I'll bring it up. Maybe next year we could have it on the 11th, and it would be maybe more, because to me, it's heartbreaking to see all the work you do and then nobody, come and actually pay their.
Yeah, the problem is it's a holiday, so our employees are not here.
Oh, okay. Well, I wasn't sure why that was, but you know what? Maybe we should still have it on the 11th, but that's something that we could talk about, because I hate to see people not come. Most of them said they never got a notice, and they didn't know about it.
It's on the calendar. It's actually listed on the calendar.
There was a list.
Yeah, I told them, and I did say, I know the clerk sent out a flyer along with a letter, but they still said some of them did not receive it and they didn't know about it. So anyway, maybe we can talk about that at another time. Okay. Shredding will be on November 23rd from 8 to 11 at Lakeside Middle School. And also the chamber is putting out a sign and bid facade grant program, and there are evidently grants available for business owners. So if you're interested, you might want to talk to either the bid or to the chamber, that would be Art Kafka. And they will also, the chamber is also going to be participating in the holiday stroll on December 7th. As Councilwoman Polidori said, tomorrow is our open space committee meeting, and we will be discussing all of the projects that are and the recommendations that will be going to the mayor and council for funding. I was very fortunate tonight to have the borough engineer, his partner, Alex, can't say his last name, but he's very familiar with the project. They did review the DEP permit, and they reviewed the cost estimates. They are engineering firm that actually did the cost estimates, and he agreed to be at our open space meeting tomorrow night, in addition to the borough engineer being at our council meeting. So if there's any questions about the project, about the size of it, about, the scope, Alex will be here to answer the questions. I invite anybody and everyone who has any interest in the open space program to please come. Michael, our administrator, will be there. He did provide us last month with a number of charts about how much money is available, either through grants, and then how much will the borough would need to fund the projects after the grants are used up. So that's all going to be discussed tomorrow, and I look forward to answering any questions. And that starts at 7:30, and it'll be here. I reviewed the police reports. They had a very active month. Evidently, they found some child running down the street. They had to stop him.
4 times.
Yeah, so, crazy things do happen, but luckily our police department is well equipped to handle that kind of situation, which they did. They handled it very well. And the New Jersey State did report a drought warning. And there is a really good, I know, Michael, I think you put it on the website. It's here. And what you have to remember is drought conditions throughout the state through reservoirs, because we don't have rain. We have artesian wells. So our wells, I don't know what the levels are at this point, but even if we have wells, because I've had people say, well, we don't have to worry about what water we use because we have well water. But well water is affected by rainwater. So if you don't have recharge of your wells, your wells are going to go dry. And that's the last thing that we would need. So it's prudent that if you have leaking toilets, sinks, that's your kitchen or your bathroom, or if you have any other kind of leak in your irrigation systems, they should be turned off. They should not be running. You should not be running any irrigation. I saw a few running this past week, and I guess I just forgot about it or they didn't turn them off yet. Turn them off and fix your leaks in your bathroom sinks or your toilets. I had a neighbor had a bill of almost, they had a bill and the gallonage I think was over 100,000 gallons because the toilet was running and running and running and running. And the MUA, to their credit, actually called them and said, you have a problem, we have to come and inspect the house, which they did. So that's what they'll do. But it was an excessive amount of water usage. So that kind of thing really does hurt in this type of drought condition. And I just want to mention that, that open space, I did read the open space comments on social media. I don't answer that because I don't do council business on social media. So just wanted to mention that. And that is my report.
Thank you. Attorney, ready to report? Any report?
Nothing for open session tonight, Mayor.
Okay. Michael, your report.
Thank you, Mayor. Today I received notice from the New Jersey Department of Transportation that the Borough of Pompton Lakes has received a 2025 Municipal Aid Program grant for the Lakeside Ave Phase 1 Improvements Project, resurfacing of Lakeside Ave from Van Ave to Jefferson Ave in the amount of $507,000. So we're looking forward to getting that project started next year. Today, the borough accepted bids for the resurfacing of Dawes Highway and Maple Ave. The apparent low bidder, New Prince Concrete Construction Company, had an apparent low bid of $590,000, which was approved at tonight's council meeting due to a rushed DOT deadline that we have to meet by the end of next week. We are scheduling a pre-construction meeting in the coming weeks and are anticipating a spring resurfacing. Furthermore, the borough is accepting bids for the Lakeside Ave ADA curb ramp replacements project, which is funded in part by a county community development block grant in the amount of $58,000. That bid opening is for next week. And lastly, we're accepting bids tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. for the sale of the borough's radio station. So we will report back on that at the December 11th council meeting. The borough engineer and I have solicited proposals and pricing for the demolition of the former A1 Auto Body Shop. We did hold a pre-con meeting last week. We are looking to demolish the structure within the next month. We are contacting all of our utility companies, MUA, PSE&G, JCP&L, to schedule all of the disconnects, which is expected to take a few weeks. And the demolition itself will take approximately 1 week. So that's moving forward, and that'll be great to see. On tonight's agenda, we had a advertisement of bids resolution on. We're looking to go out to bid for our solid waste disposal services. Right now, the borough is part of what's called the Mid-Passaic Cooperative Purchasing System, which is led by the borough of Hawthorne. And they kind of take the lead on some of our larger recycling and solid waste projects to kind of pool together the municipalities to get better pricing. The price that they got for our services for next year, because our contract expires at the end of this year, is a 22% increase. So it's a $100,000 increase to our budget next year. So as a strategic move, with the superintendent of public works, we decided that it's in the best interest of the borough to go out to bid ourselves. We're anticipating that any prospective bidder is going to bid below the co-op pricing because they know that we're part of the co-op. So we're really hoping that we get a competitive bid. However, bids for garbage collection and disposal need to be solicited for 60 days. So also on tonight's agenda, you had a contract extension with Gator Recycling Company to bring us into January for when we accept the new bids. So we're looking to hopefully award a contract at the second council meeting in January. So that's good news. Lastly, the CFO and I are meeting with all of our department heads for the last week of November, and then the Finance Committee will convene early in the new year to discuss the preliminary budget for next year. So we are working on that diligently. And then just to address Councilwoman Polidori's concerns, on tonight's bills list, there are costs for engineering services for all of the NJDEP river violations. To date, we've spent over $3,000 in engineering services to prepare for the restoration plan that we need to submit by December 15th to the NJDEP. So those are costs that we have to bear as a result of the violations that were incurred by the state. And furthermore, to address your concerns with our contractor, DMK Services LLC, this governing body did award a contract to DMK Services not to exceed $17,500 at the September 11th council meeting, which was after the which was before we received the official notification of the river violations. So he was awarded that contract. The specific bill that was on tonight's bills list was a bill from the spring. So it had nothing to do with any of the river work. It was for a tree removal. So I would encourage any additional questions, and I'm happy to answer anything.
So let's go back to, just so everybody understands, what he's talking about, the hut. That's the hut behind the building over here next to the walkway bridge. That's what we'll be removing. And for now, we're just going to leave it as some space. There might be a bench going in at some point over there to just sit by the water, but we're not looking at building like a big park there. It is an eyesore to the neighborhood, though, on that side. So that's one of the things there. The grant work, I mean, the award we got was a good award today for the road work. That's always good when we're getting bigger numbers like that. Any concerns, questions?
Yes, I want to go back to what we were talking about. So 3,000 to date on engineering for the proposed work to be done. Do you have any idea, a ballpark of what you think this is going to cost in full completion?
As I transmitted to the governing body, the visit with the DEP was very favorable, and they do believe that only plantings and minor soil restoration are required, specifically for the parcels behind the hardware store, which we don't anticipate any large costs for. So that was good news from the DEP.
And our engineers are putting something together right now.
Yes, we are required by law, by the DEP, to submit the restoration plan.
So There was a video taken of this work being done when a complaint was made. It was submitted to the building department, it was investigated, and we were told that nothing wrong was being done. And then a year later, we received all of these fines and violations. And then now we have awarded another contract. So clearly, right, this work was being done in violation of what was supposed to have been done. Does that give us grounds, if need be, to terminate the contract that was awarded after that?
I would defer to the attorney on that specific issue.
I would have to look at the contract, but I do not think that it would, because it wouldn't have anything to do with the current contract.
So who is held responsible when an individual that should be inspecting these things is made aware of something that's being done wrong and it's overlooked, and then we subsequently
So
end
let's
up
step in.
having to
There
pay
were no
fines?
fines to us on the property, correct?
No monetary
No
fines.
monetary fines. So there are no monetary fines about what's going on. It's just replanting and some reseeding.
All right, so fees, we'll use the word fees instead. We've paid $3,000 to remediate work that was done by someone that was done in violation of what should have been done. I mean, he was operating outside of, was this illegal? Is that what the problem was? The work was being done illegally?
The work was done not in accordance with the
Law?
regulations,
Okay,
right?
so, I mean, maybe you don't want to call it fine, but we're paying for this.
No, we're paying for the engineering to fix it. That's what we're paying for.
And we'll have to pay for the fix.
And we'll pay
Yeah,
for the
so
fix.
we can, so we'll use more favorable words.
If I may, really quick, there is a mechanism to go after our contractor's insurance, and DMK Services LLC is paying for the restoration.
So we're being reimbursed for the dollars that we've spent so far?
He's paying for the restoration in the future, the planting and remediation of the soil.
Why is he not paying the $3,000 in engineering fees?
I don't know that he's liable for that. I would defer to the attorney.
There is an indemnification provision, so I suspect that we could seek a reimbursement of our engineering fees from DMK.
Okay, if it was brought to our attention that this in fact was being done wrong and we chose not to address it at the time and the work continued and incurred these fees, we should not be responsible for it.
So when you say it was brought, do we have a record in the building department of someone looking at this?
The building department was sent a video.
Okay, but that doesn't tell me they went and looked at anything.
It was confirmed to me by the building inspector that he did in fact go and look at it and that nothing was being done wrong, which is both in
Do
an
we
email
know that or
and
we
a
don't
text
know
message.
that?
I can investigate
Yeah,
that.
let's
I'll forward the
investigate that.
correspondence to you
Thank
and the
you.
videos.
And just, I guess, to conclude, the borough attorney and I will investigate further and
Yep.
advise.
Thank you.
I just have a question. The building department said they looked at a video and they said there was no violation? Is that?
I didn't hear that. I don't know that.
No, I'm asking, is that what?
That's what's being.
That's what you're-
Yes, yeah.
That's the allegation. The building department looked
That
at a
videos
video.
were forwarded. I reached out and said, I understand videos were sent. I saw them. The allegation is that actually what the videos were was dirt being moved from the Meridia project on a Sunday when no one was here across the road and being dumped behind the hardware store. Videos were taken of that. It was sent to the building department, to which the building inspector's response was, there's nothing wrong.
I know none of those accusations. Mike, have you heard of it?
I have not.
No,
I've
nobody's
never
heard those accusations.
We've never heard that.
I mean, I recall the videos, but I
Everyone
wasn't
did.
involved.
We
I
all
wasn't part of the
discussed it. It
response.
was when Paula was here, it was discussed. It's been discussed here under Michael Corelli. When we first were made aware of this, it was discussed. We all heard about the videos.
If the DEP, which is where it went to, they would have responded to that if there was a
I think that's
violation.
what they did.
Well, that's why they're here.
No, they responded to a little too
Multiple
much
allegations.
area that we used of.
Right, I know
They
nothing
didn't move
about-
anything about
Oh,
moving
this
dirt
isn't-
or anything.
Okay, so this
Yeah.
is.
This is
that's
different.
related.
Right?
Okay.
Right. There was no accusation by the DEP that we moved dirt from one place to another.
No.
The accusation is that we overstepped our bounds in work that was done along the river. That's what they're dealing with.
Well, I'm
Correct.
going to send you the videos and the emails and the text messages that went back and forth.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for the
I'd
administrator?
like to make a comment.
Yeah.
That DMK has done a lot of work in the rivers, and that we have not flooded until recently for over 10 years, thanks to the work that Dave Culp of DMK did.
Anybody else? Okay. Where are we? We're going right to workshop. Okay, for the engineering services, we'll start with that.
Thank you, Mayor. So the first item is this pretty routine matter that I figured I'd put on for a quick workshop tonight. So we did get a grant for the Water Vliet and Albany Ave Improvements Project in the amount of $182,528 from the DOT. This governing body just adopted the bond ordinance for the project, so I'm looking to put on a contract award for the engineering services, construction inspection, and preparation of the bid documents for the project in an amount not to exceed $113,000. That's from our borough engineer, Don Rafalski Engineering Associates. This cost was included in the bond ordinance, so I'm just, as a routine matter, just bringing that forth.
And this is for the road work on Water Vliet and the drainage.
Right. And I would solicit any concerns or questions. But,
Just so everybody's up to date, we've had a concern over the last couple of years that the drainage and the road work over there is not proper. And there's a couple of residents that are saying the water drains towards my house and it freezes during the wintertime and it causes us an issue, so we're trying to address that.
Thank you. So we'll have a contract award for the next council meeting for that. And then the second item for tonight is the police department and I have been working with a provider to solicit pricing to install cameras at all of our borough parks. And it's my understanding that we used to have cameras in at least some of our parks.
Long time ago. Yeah.
We have no cameras right now. So we're working with the company Mind's Eye Technologies. They're on state contracts, so they do offer some of the lowest pricing available to us. Specifically, we're looking to put in cameras at Joe Grill, Willow Field, Hirschfield Park, Lakeside Park, Carlo Field, and the police department's boat launch behind the Board of Education building. All of the camera infrastructure are either single, dual, or four-head cameras. And the camera infrastructure is really advanced. You could type in, I'm looking for a person in a red shirt, and it's going to bring you every person that ever walked by that facility in a red shirt in the past 10 years, it could do. So it's very advanced technology. And in talking with the police department, we have had incidents at the parks. Things have been stolen. I've been reached out to by the Little League, by the PLRYO Association. Things have been stolen, vandalized, and we don't have equipment down there, so we can't monitor it. So again, I did solicit a quote. The quote has several cameras at all of the facilities. It essentially covers most of the views in the parks. The more important stuff, the parking lots, the snack stands, the Hirschfield Park boathouse, the tennis courts, things like that. So the quote itself is for an amount of $187,000, which includes the camera infrastructure, it includes the installation, the servicing, the software, all of the TV mount accessories, and most importantly, all of the internet connections that are required on all of these locations that don't have internet. So again, it would be $187,000 for the project. And I guess, we're looking for feedback from the governing body, whether or not you would entertain moving forward with this, or perhaps a phased approach to this.
So why don't you speak to the budget part of it? How do you feel budget to, how do you feel moving forward with that number?
We're recommending to move forward.
Okay.
Do we have a breakdown, or do we have a breakdown of how many cameras per field? You don't have to, if you could just email it to us so we know what the breakdown is. I'm assuming some are going to have more than others.
Of course. It was included in the packet tonight.
Oh, I'm sorry. Let me look it over.
I would say there's an average of 5 to 7 cameras per facility. Maybe for Lakeside Park, there's 2 to 3 to 4, considering it's a smaller size park. But really, we're trying to get the views that we feel would be subject to potential vandalism.
No, I agree.
The other thing is storage too. It includes all the storage for what we're doing.
Right.
That's a big cost in itself.
You mean the data storage?
Data storage, right.
Yeah, cloud.
I was being
Yeah.
stored with cloud.
And it would be in the police dispatch center for
They monitor it.
monitoring.
Yeah, that was my question.
But that's why I bring it up, because they don't have to actually physically monitor it. Somebody calls and says somebody did some damage On Tuesday, we can go back to Tuesday and say, hey, look, let's look at that tape, see what's going on there.
How long does it save it for?
A while. It's in the cloud forever, I think.
Yeah.
Oh,
Any other questions?
No, I think it's fantastic.
I just have one other
Sure.
question. So is this in no way in conjunction with the cameras that we
No,
want to put?
no, separate,
Okay.
completely separate. So what's the feedback on money spent and, I mean,
That's a lot of money.
it's a lot of money,
It's a lot of money,
but it's also a
but
needed
we need
thing.
it.
It's a needed
I
thing.
think just if you look at just to take into consideration the theft, the dollar amount of equipment that they each have in every location is in the thousands and thousands of dollars. So I've spoken to PLOIO just to understand their scope of what they're looking for, and there have been recent incidents. I know it's a lot of money, but you gotta look long-term. I'm hoping council will see it that way as a long-term investment to protect. Not only that, kids go to these fields after hours as well. And it applies to Lakeside, but Lakeside is covered by cameras through BOE. So I'm hoping that, the board will look at this as a long-term investment for the safety, not only of the children, but what investments each organization has put into those fields to get them where they are today.
And Bob, you bring up a good point. I don't know if everybody's aware, we had a pretty severe injury after hours
Yes.
at one of our fields, where, the kid had to be rushed to the hospital. It was serious stuff. And, now we have a film of what happened, so it's not someone saying, look, I was there and there was a board in the road and I went over it. So, this family has nothing to do with any of this, but this is a good protection for us on the long run. Now, it's a big number. I'm not denying
Yes,
that. It's a
absolutely.
big number. So I think what Michael's looking for is direction on, do we want to phase it or do we want to pay it all up front, or how do
I'd
you
like
want
to
to do
see
it?
the numbers for phased approach and over how many years, just to
Any grants,
minimize the
Michael?
impact.
Any
No.
grants we could look at
There's
as
no
far as,
grants.
no grants? It's unfortunate.
Can we do it over 2 years? Can you give us numbers on 2 years?
Well, I think the governing body would just have to decide what parks they'd like to do
Right, so
first.
that's what's gonna happen if we phase it. We're gonna have to decide which one is weighted 2 years.
Could we do fewer cameras to start, just till we have the parks covered? And not just do everything that they recommend in one shot?
The police department would recommend full coverage if we're going to do it. We might as well do the whole thing. So I mean, if you're not comfortable with the budget figures, I would suggest picking at least maybe two of the parks to cover.
I'm okay with putting the money out, because it's just another year we're waiting on it. That's how I am approaching it, because either way, we're gonna pay for it in 2 years. I think it's a needed thing. I think we had it years ago, and we used it a lot years ago, but it was such an antiquated system, we had videotapes, and it was crazy. But it did save, I mean, we had a guy who was trying to burn the tunnel down, with a torch in the middle of the night, and they were able to see that and go down there and stop it. So,
Well, going to the mayor's question, from a cost perspective, from a budgetary standpoint, I mean, are we in a position to, come with a six-figure?
Right, so I was just going to mention that we're looking to bond this, so we would pay for it over time.
Okay, all right, that makes me feel a little bit better.
I'll start on Lisa, I'll start on your end. How do you feel? How do you want to do it?
Oh, I would want to do it.
You
I'll
want
just
it?
do it all at once.
All at once? Okay.
Same.
Yeah, for bonding it, we might as well just pay for it all
Yeah,
at
how
once.
much we're nodding, right.
I agree. Bonding.
All right, so you got
Thank
your
you.
answer.
We'll have a contract award for the next one.
Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
okay. Motion to open the meeting for public comments.
Motion.
Second.
Council President Devine, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Again, against? Anybody from the public like to address? Please step up.
Hello, Evangelista, speaking on emergency management. I wasn't aware of this project that was going on with the cameras. I know they had been discussed, but I didn't know we were so close to coming to a resolution on it. But what I would suggest, and I have suggested this, and I've been mentioning it to many of the council members on Saturday when we were here with the EOC, I would like to see those cameras, or have at least a camera on each of the flood gauges at the strategic positions in town, so we can see right here on that video monitor, the flood gauges during the height of a flood. Okay, and also we can see the inundations at those locations, and again, bring it back into the EOC. I know it's going to be in the police dispatch, but we're not allowed to go in there. So it's a matter of having it available if we had to set up an EOC to see these strategic positions. For example, I have access to the cameras on the Pompton Lakes Dam, on the gates. I can see them right from my car. So I don't even have to drive down there to see if the gates are open, half open, or whatever, because we have that technology. The issue that I see with technology, and you mentioned it, no matter what system we get next year, it's going to be obsolete in 5 years, 10 years. So just know that our investment is not forever, even though, we're going to bond it as technology increases. I mean, in my school, we had the ability to zoom in on a license plate right from my office, my desk, and I could see, the car and the driver in the vehicle and take a picture of it if need be. So, if we're going to look at the system, let's see if we can just embellish it a little bit and add those couple things to it. On the Veterans Service, I've made my passions known here before, how I feel about that. We have a beautiful Memorial Day parade. And as a matter of fact, I went to the Veterans Service that they held at the 11th hour on the 11th day of the 11th month at Veterans Park. I was the only person there besides VFW members, and there were only about 6 of them. Here's my point. If you want to involve people, you have to involve people. Okay, you said there was a limited turnout. I couldn't be here that night. I had to work at the Fire Academy, but the bottom line is Memorial Day is for the dead, for the people that gave their lives in the defense of this country. Veterans Day is for the living. And if we're going to have Veterans Day for the living, let's get the living people here. Okay, let's honor them. Let's reach out to the veterans in town that are still living. Invite them to a reception, perhaps in a Lennox School gym. When the same thing doesn't work year after year, eventually it gets old and people will not come out. Standing on the steps out here, as we do, with the nice ceremony that we do, we're preaching to the choir. Okay, let's get the veterans, let's reach out, let's get a committee, a committee, not for us, let's get a citizens committee, perhaps, or the VFW involved, and say, give us a list. I'm sure they can get a list of every living veteran that might be in Pompton Lakes. I'm sure with today's technology and computers, they can do that, the Department of whatever, military. And let's reach out to the veterans and say, we want to honor you, come. Now, remember years ago, and I don't know if many of you remember this, they used to have it here, right in this room. And what they would do is they would post the pictures. They would ask all the veterans to send a picture in of them in uniform. And we hung them on both sides of the lobby right here and posted them on the wall. It's a living memorial for the living veterans. And that's what we got to do, in my opinion, if we want to get those people out and honor them properly. Standing out here reading a proclamation or saying nice things about them while they're home is not really honoring them, in my opinion, properly. So that's just my suggestion. And again, involve the community, and the community is going to turn out. We've seen that with the Boy Scouts, the Girl Scouts. We invite them, they come, the parents come, and we have a crowd to honor these people properly. So that would be my suggestion. And the other thing, I don't know, I mentioned this a couple months ago. I don't know if you visited the Ringwood website, but they have a beautiful PowerPoint presentation of their veterans that scrolls on a PowerPoint on that website. And it's just there forever. Perhaps we can do the same thing on Channel 77. So instead of watching the same long-term, advertisements that have been on there, maybe we can do, in the month of November, a scrolling pictorial of all the living veterans that live in Pompton Lakes, live and reside here, pay their taxes, support the community, and come out for different things. So that's just my 2 cents. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Mike Simone, 25 West Lennox Ave. Al, I have to disagree with you on one thing. Pictures from in uniform. You won't recognize me. Be too skinny and too young. But anyway, yeah, that was a great idea when we used to do it back then. I wholeheartedly agree with what Al said. And the veterans in town, it's nice to give them a little bit of recognition. So whatever you can work out. And I'll bet you'll get a lot of us that would actually help with that. So like if you just had an ad hoc committee of people that were in the military, you'd probably get a lot of support there. First of all, thanks for the kind words before for the comments. I wanted to just mention a couple things. There was actually a member of the planning board that was the chairman, who also was the chairman of the redevelopment agency. And that was for a bunch of years, just so you know that has happened. And I don't certainly recommend that, but I just wanted you to know that there's both been a member and a double chairman, which was a bunch of years. Another thing to mention to you, there was a question about why you would need representation on both. Just to give you a quick example, many times we'll get a project from the redevelopment agency that has, basically, they commit the town, once you guys vote on it, they commit the town to this, by this, by this, and with this around it and this above it, and then comes to the planning board, and the only thing the planning board really gets to do at that point is to check the surrounding areas, we look for parking, we look for trees, but the building itself, whatever building it is, it's fixed. And so we've had some instances where we've noticed a couple things that were like, well, you know, it would have been nice if we had done that. And then it goes back to the redevelopment agency and it wastes a lot of time. The thought was that if the planning board had somebody on the redevelopment agency, regardless of who it is, there was a link there that the guy that's from, or woman that's from the planning board would know what the planning board looks for, and they would be able to bring that to the redevelopment agency while the project was being considered. That was the essence of why we were looking at doing it to something like that. Your call, that's just explanation. The EV bikes, I wanted to bring that up too. Somebody mentioned it already. There's a lot of them around, and they don't watch what they're doing, and they just drive, and some of them are on the sidewalk, some of them are in the road, some of them cross the road while they're on it. They really are vehicles as far as I know. I don't believe they're considered plain old bicycles. But I would like someone here on the council, especially the liaison to the police, to maybe find out what the exact rules are and publish them somewhere. Because personally, I don't know how much the guy in town does because it's just open, but I would believe a lot of these guys probably buy them from wherever, including online. And, you know, besides the fire department having a problem with the lithium batteries becoming a fire hazard, you have these people that are literally a hazard driving around. And I'd hate to see somebody get hit, and I would hate to see a pedestrian get hurt because, like I said, they're on the sidewalks or cutting across the road. Some of them ride with the traffic, some of them ride against the traffic. It might be a good idea to just put a little clamp on it and say, these are the rules, follow the rules. I believe, and maybe the attorney can confirm, you can get a summons on those.
I don't know the answer to it. I'm writing down some of
Well,
the questions
I'll
that
answer,
I
but
have
I
in
have
my
some
mind.
answers. I know Eric has answers on that too.
I would hope there would be, but, you know, these are just thoughts that came to my mind about the EVs running around. And I hope that we have something in the code about not having these batteries charged inside a building. I don't know that offhand. I'd have to check. Maybe Al would know, but the concern that we have with that is the lithium batteries, if they should malfunction, they will basically literally explode. And once that happens, whatever building they're in, it's going to be a goner and you got risk of life. So I think the EV thing is good, but I think we need to just kind of like get a handle on it. And police need to be involved, fire needs to be involved, legal needs to be involved, whoever else you think needs to be done. And with that, I thank you very much.
Thank you.
Have a great evening.
Anyone else from the public like to address? Please step up.
Randy Hitton, 443 Montclair Avenue. It's nice to see ex-councilman Simone writing notes and stuff on his paper and presenting his questions. I want to agree with Councilman Bennon that DMK has done quite a lot of work in our town and has done a lot of river work and has prevented a lot of flooding through the work that he did. He was paid for that work, but he has done a great job in town. But it gives him no excuse for violating DEP on the project that he was doing behind the hardware store. You know, we're spending $3,000 so far in engineering. From me looking at the tax map, if I'm correct, and remember, that property goes all the way to the river. That's private property. So I don't know, we could check the tax map again, but why we're doing restoration on private property. Ordinance 2442 was first reading today. What were the changes in this ordinance to avoid previous issues that we've just recently had with that ordinance?
2442 is the second one. Is he talking about the second one?
Yeah, the one with the events in public parks.
Okay.
Also, in reference to the fire and the condos on Cannonball Road, is there a yearly maintained fire break between the Cannonball condos and the DuPont wooded property? Someone told me that there was supposed to be a fire break, but it hasn't been maintained for years. I don't know if that's the responsibility of the condo project or a responsibility of DuPont. But obviously, through what we just went through, there should be a fire break and maintained yearly. So this won't happen, or if it does happen again, we won't have such an issue. Also on the, I understand what our administrator talked about on the stop signs on the end of Ackerman Place and Montclair Ave. Who did the review on that and who made that determination that the stop signs weren't needed? And lastly, I just want to thank all the voters who supported me in my council bid. I want to thank my running mates, the love of my life, Joan, my family member. And also I want to thank Councilman DeLine for all his years of service to this town. I don't know if I could even shine his shoes, but I want to thank you for all you did. And also I want to make mention that Councilman DeLine is a veteran, and he'll be the last veteran leaving our council. I'm not a veteran, I don't think anybody else is a veteran. And, I want to thank you very much for all you've done for the town of Pompton Lakes, and I hope that I could shine your shoes on the job that you've done. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else from the public like to address? Seeing no one, can I have a motion to close the public session?
Motion.
Second. Councilwoman Polidori, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Al, I'll have Michael look into the cost of effectiveness of the flood, with the flooding. We'll see where we come with that. All your suggestions with the veterans were fine. I think they were good. You know, we did have a good number of veterans here, but not all the veterans in town, and maybe some don't want to come. I don't know, you know, the answer if they're all going to come or not. But we can always get more here. I agree, it's for the living. Normally, we do have a good turnout of the Boy Scouts and the Girl Scouts. There was some miscommunication with a couple of those groups, and they actually sent us an email saying, oh, we had the wrong date. So that's part of the issue, but we can always update it and maybe look at it, and we can address that a little bit. Mike, okay, so there is the law, the way I understand it, according to police, because I've talked to them, it's 25 and under, it's considered a bicycle. If you're going 25 miles an hour or less, it's a regular bicycle. No laws that associated with cars would be associated with that. Anything over 25, it's now in the scooter range, and I know the attorney's going to look this up.
Yeah, I will.
And they have different requirements. Obviously, if it's a bicycle, even though it's electric, going less than 25, there's not much they can do with that because it's a bicycle. Anything over that, I guess the police could look at that a little bit. And maybe Al can address this. We do not have an ordinance for charging batteries outside. I don't think we have that ordinance, and I don't think a lot of towns actually have that ordinance, to be honest. It's just part of the world we live in right now, the way they're doing these batteries. Same thing with the veterans. We can always tweak that. We can work on that. You know, the more veterans we can get, the better it is. Randy, you had many things. All right, we'll start with the stop signs. Our engineers did the stop signs, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So that it was our engineer firm who did that. The DEP, we spoke about it. Yes, he does a lot of work for us. The reason, and I'm going to let Mike address this, but the reason we're addressing it is because the fine was sent to us. Is that correct? What is the reason we're addressing private property?
The restoration work is on our property.
On our property, okay. I'm sorry, what else you got down here? The fire break. I don't even have an answer for you for that. Maybe we can look into that. I don't even know if we still do fire breaks or not. So we'll get an answer for you at the next council meeting. And I have here maps. What was that, maps?
It was the tax maps regarding the property.
Oh, the tax maps regarding property. Yes, it's private property, but that's the reason that we're doing that. Okay, that's what I got.
Thank you, Councilman Dewan,
Oh, well,
for his service.
okay. I don't have to.
Don't forget.
I don't have to speak to that. There might even be a ceremony next month on it. Approach of the floor. Anybody approach? Oh, I'm sorry. Motion to close the public session. Councilman Dewan, Council President Dewan, Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Approach of the floor. Approach of the floor? Sure.
I would just like to talk about the e-bikes. Any bicycle is supposed to be driven in the street. There are laws against that. They shouldn't be riding them on the sidewalk. Electric scooters shouldn't be ridden on the sidewalk. And they are supposed to have lights on them as well, and a lot of them don't. So the police department can address that. Otherwise, there's nothing they can do about it. I mean,
But I don't know if a bicycle has to have lights on.
they have to have reflectors on it. They're
Reflectors,
supposed to-
yes.
Yes,
Yes,
yes.
but not lights, right.
There should be something. A lot of them don't. You can't see them at night.
Right,
It's-
a reflector, yeah, but I don't think
Yes.
it's mandatory for a bicyclist.
But they're not
kid
allowed,
to
they're
drive a bike.
actually not even supposed to drive them across the street. They're supposed to walk them.
Well, like I
across the
said, though,
crosswalk.
anything
That's the
25
law.
miles an hour and lower is a bicycle.
But it shouldn't be on the sidewalk.
No, it shouldn't be on the sidewalk, correct.
That's it.
You want to answer that?
Yeah, can I just add something? I
No.
don't want to cut you off because it's your privilege. So probably about 5 years ago, we tried to tackle this when the New Jersey e-bike and guidance first got released. There was a lot of back and forth actually Joe Ragno drafted the ordinance because we tried to change it, back and forth with then Chief Augusto, then Captain Clark. So it's been back and forth. It just kind of, there's a lot of nuance to it because it was like, well, because we already regulate bicycles on the sidewalks. You can actually ride bicycles on the sidewalks if you're under a certain age.
Yes.
Except within a specific area. So we tried to figure all of this out, and a lot of it came to the terminology. Michael, I just forwarded you a whole bunch of emails with those draft ordinances, so it looks like, we'll have to take a fresh look at it. But we tried to get through it in 2019, 2020. Obviously the e-bike issue has grown to a degree, and they're looking at, they've got classifications now and things like that. So hopefully the council can take care of that issue.
And I remember that conversation started over those mini bikes. Remember the little mini motorcycle bikes?
Yeah, I mean,
that they were
it
riding
started
around?
somewhere, and now it's
Yes.
just grown, and now we have a bike in the e-bike shop and everything like that. So it's time again, I think.
Okay. Approach floor over here. Anybody?
Just to follow it up about, I think there was 2 council meetings ago, we discussed this at length, and I did provide information from from Chief Clerk on that, and believe it or not, he got most of his information from the bike shop. So, and there's not a lot of regulations at the state level, and there's none here, so it's not regulated yet, but it's coming, so. Use common sense is what I'm gonna say.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. Motion to adjourn into closed session. So
Motion.
moved. Councilman Cruz, Councilman Bennett, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Thank you, everyone. We
Have a good night,
closed
everyone.
Good night.
You too.
You too.
Yeah, go ahead, buddy.
Okay, it's recording, but somebody has to make a motion. right?
Motion.
Motion to come out of closed session.
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori, Councilwoman Kilberg, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? In closed session, we discussed negotiation, contracts, and then we do have a statement to be read by our attorney.
In conjunction with the possible litigation concerning the Morris County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund, I'm asking for a motion to authorize and direct the borough administrator to sign on the borough's behalf the Joint Defense Common Interest Agreement in order that the borough join with the several other municipalities and other public entities currently challenging the supplemental assessments of the borough's former joint insurance fund, the Middlesex County Municipal Joint Insurance Fund.
Councilwoman Polidori, can I have a second?
Second.
Councilman Cruz, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second.
Councilwoman Polidori, Councilwoman Kilberg, Polidori and Kilberg.
Thank you all.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
That's it.
Everyone.